out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. So if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Here's the reading. Okay, my friends. We're going to start off this morning because I knew with the 4th of July, and a lot of you have been doing a lot of things you're not used to, and a lot of people will be traveling. I figured today I was going to need something to wake you up a little bit, all right? So we're going to open the sermon by playing a little interactive game. Can we do that? I'm hoping the three of you that said yes will play along with me, okay? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a question, and then I'm going to give you 4 possible answers. And you have to pick for me the best possible answer to the question based on the 4 available options. Does everybody understand the rules? Okay, all right. So here we go. First, if you want to drive a nail into a board, what tool do you want? A hammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, or pliers? Hammer. All right, good deal. All right, so we're off to a good start. Let's go to the next one. If your car is having a hard time going down the road and is making a lot of noise, what do you check for? A cracked windshield, a flat tire, a broken steering wheel, or a dented fender? Flat tire. Okay, good. We're 2 for 2. Suppose you're looking for a car that screams awesomeness to the world. Which car do you choose? Y'all know which one's going to be in there, right? A custom hot rod, a Lamborghini, a souped-up Model T, or a 2000 Volkswagen Beetle? Don't get this one wrong. I haven't heard the answer yet. The Beetle, there you go. That's right. Okay. So, last one. If I asked you to pick an organization best known for their football team, which one do you pick? Hold on, you don't even know the options yet. The first one is the TLC Learning Center. The second one is the Otterbein Retirement Community. The third one is the Beaumont School. Now, for those of you who don't know the Beaumont School, it is a wonderful school located in Cleveland Heights. It has a highly rated college prep program. It's also an all-girls school. And the fourth possible choice is the University of Michigan. All right. Now, hold on. We here at Wayne Street, we are loving and accepting of all people, no matter how wrong they may be at certain key issues. So I think it would be a very nice vote of confidence for those of you who reside here in Buckeye Nation to publicly declare that we recognize that our neighbors to the north are probably more known for their football team than a preschool, a retirement home, and an all-girls school. Can we at least take that step? I know what some of you are now wondering. How tough are those girls at Beaumont, right? Okay. All right, as you can see, in each of these choices that I asked you to make, all of them are dependent upon one thing. The choice that you made was assuming that everything was going to function properly. You know, if I gave you this first choice again, but I added that the hammer had a broken handle, that might affect your choice, might it not? In the second choice, if you walked around your car and you saw that all 4 tires were inflated, you have to go check some other part of the car for the noise. You see, all the choices that we made based on the options that I give you were based on the options doing what we expect them to do. I mean, in the last choice I gave you, if I told you that the Ohio State Buckeyes were going to hold camp at Otterbein and live there all season, I'm assuming that would affect your choice that you made in this one, right? It would change things. I'm sorry to say that's probably not going to happen, but you all know where I'm going with this, okay? So in making these choices in the best way possible, we had to make some assumptions about how things were going to be. We had to believe they were not broken or not, somehow not working properly. So if you consider these questions, you weighed out the choice that you made based on the assumption that each of the choices were going to do what we all know they were designed to do. Friends, what happens to anything that we own when it no longer functions like it's supposed to? I mean, what do we do with that hammer with the broken handle? What do we do with the flat tire? You either have to fix them or you have to replace them. Those are the only two options available. On the other hand, what happens when you make a choice based on an incorrect reason? Friends, there is a complete reason other than just being silly that I asked you the final question the way I did. Your feelings about the Wolverines are irrelevant. I'm giving you a choice between a preschool, a retirement home, and an all-girls school. So in this choice, you either pick the University of Michigan or you're not getting any football at all. Friends, is there anything on earth that is more frustrating than seeing something fail to do what it was designed to do? A hammer that doesn't drive nails is good for nothing because that's what a hammer was created to do. These are inanimate objects we're talking about here. I mean, when the hammer was first invented, way back whenever that was, it was designed to help in the building process. We have down through the ages built countless numbers of hammers of all different shapes and sizes and designs, and they were all designed for the sole purpose of hitting things. Now, I know there are other possible uses for hammers, but their primary purpose is to hit things. Now, think about what a hammer looks like in the hands of a skilled craftsman. That way the craftsman looks at the hammer is the exact same way that God looks at you. Have you ever thought about that before? See, you were designed to do many things. You were designed to be creative. You were designed to put together things, invent things like hammers. You were designed to build cars. You were designed to enjoy life. And when you do what you were designed to do, it pleases your Creator, just like it pleases you to see something do something it was designed to do. When you put something together and it functions right, we appreciate that. It's the same way God sees us. Have you ever thought of God that way? God looking at you as a work of art, a complete success, a great joy to watch you do your thing, to do what you were born to do. Because that's what Jesus is speaking about here in the Sermon on the Mount. Last week, we talked about how he warned us about how the broken things of this world are one day going to be made right. So make sure you're on the right side of the Beatitudes, because when that power turns over, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that. Because those who abuse power don't get to keep it. Immediately after, reminding the crowd, who were probably also wondering whether or not they were blessed, after reminding them, you guys are blessed no matter what else is going on in the world, Jesus takes it a step further. Why? If we're blessed, why are we blessed? Because make no mistake, my friends, you are blessed for a reason. Friends, what are we? We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. And Jesus asks, well, what good is salt if it lost its flavor? Now, I'm not a cook by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing I do know is that too much salt will ruin what you're making. So I ask you, does salt ever lose its flavor? And the answer is no. Salt is salt, no matter what you mix it with. You put salt on your bowl of cereal, and you're going to taste it. You're not going to like it much, but you're going to be able to taste that salt no matter what you mix it with. Friends, those of you who are cooks and are great in the kitchen, what can you do to get salt out of something when you put too much in? The answer is nothing. That salt will not leave. There is no cancellation for the flavor of salt. There's a reason why they don't put expiration dates on salt shakers. In fact, in Jesus' time, salt was less about flavor and more about preserving food. That's why Jesus' lesson here seems so strange. the people would have listened to this and say, well, salt doesn't lose its saltiness. There's no way I know of in taking the saltiness out of salt. And Jesus knew that when he spoke these words. Salt is salt no matter what you do to it. It doesn't change. Salt is salt. Whatever it was created as is what it remains, just like you. Now, you can mix things with salt. You can dilute salt in water. You can combine salt with other stuff, and maybe the other stuff won't last as long as the salt does. But the bottom line is, if you're talking just about salt, salt is salt no matter what happens. Again, just like you. Outside forces don't cancel salt. If you are the salt of the earth, then the earth doesn't change you, you change the earth. You mix salt with soil, bad things are going to happen. But the earth does not change the salt. The salt changes the earth. Salt does not need to be made salty again. Because immediately after reminding the crowd how blessed they are, Jesus says, guys, you're blessed for a reason. They were given a gift so that you can go out and change the world with it. And as we move through the Sermon on the Mount over these next couple of weeks, we're going to talk more in great detail about the kind of gifts we've been given. But Jesus' point in this particular section of the Sermon on the Mount is, don't deny that you have something to offer the world. God created you because he, in his infinite wisdom, took one look at this great and awesome world in which we live and decided, you know what? The earth is not going to be complete until it has a you. And the world has changed for the better because of you. Don't let the world convince you that it works the other way around, because it does not. The world does not change us. We change the world. That's how it works. Now, not only does Jesus know that, but the devil also knows that. The devil cannot stop you from being the salt of the earth, but you know what he can do? He can talk us into stopping functioning as salt does. Friends, there is only one way that salt will have no effect on food. Only one way. And that is if it never leaves the container. As soon as the salt touches the food, the salt changes it drastically. But if the salt is never shaken, never stirred, never given a chance to act like salt, it will have no effect on what happens. And friends, you've all been there. You've taken a spoonful of soup or grabbed a handful of popcorn and it didn't have enough salt on it. What did you say? You say, please pass the salt. If my food doesn't have enough salt, I will go to where I need to go to get the salt to put on the food. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. Everything else is just imposters. Let's be honest. We don't want Mrs. Dash. We don't want salt substitute. For goodness sake, we don't want anything called saltless. I don't even know what that is. Friends, that would be as bad as rooting for a football team from a preschool, right? It's the same thing. It doesn't work. Salt comes in one form, and it may be bad for us, but we all love it. Friends, for far too long, the world has been craving the salt of the earth, and we, the church, have remained silent about it. We have stayed in our container. We have allowed the world to go out and run to substitutes. We should be leading the conversation on so many issues facing our world today. But you know what we don't do? We are afraid to shake. We are afraid to even open our mouths because of all the shaking that might cause. We have allowed the earth to rob us of our saltiness by convincing us that we have nothing to contribute to anything, which is absolutely, positively dead wrong. The earth needs salt, and Jesus has declared us the salt of the earth. You know what Jesus says describes people who refuse to accept their role as the salt of the earth? Jesus says they are like a lamp that is lighted and then covered by a basket. Friends, we don't have the light. We are the light. God's Spirit has ignited inside of us to the point that we have so much to contribute to the world, but we don't. Instead of being involved, instead of making a difference, we have decided to pull off the impossible. We decided that we would rather be unsalty salt, the thing that none of us believed was possible. My friends, think back to where I opened this sermon with the interactive test that we started off with. Choices and options. Our world is faced with these kinds of choices every day about some very, very serious questions. Their questions are not like, well, which one of these is the football team? That's not the questions they're looking at. They're asking things like, how am I going to pay this bill? How am I going to get through this situation? How am I going to adjust to this terrible thing that's happened? And just like I did for you up here on the screen, they're going to take a look at all their possible options, and they're going to be forced to pick one of them. My question is this. In those list of options, are we one of the choices? Do we even make the board? Is the church one of the possible options? I mean, when the world out there is trying to answer questions about grief, and planning, and fear, and doubt, and sex, and finances, and relationships, and behaviors, when they're looking at their options to answer their questions, are we one of them? Do we have something to say about their situation? Or are we leaving the salt in the shaker and hope they find salt someplace else? Are we keeping our light under our basket so that no one will know what we think about anything? What do we have to say about disaster, about pain, suffering, and doubt? Do we have anything to say about these things? Sure we do. We have a lot to say. And some of what we have to say might even require us to speak. But it makes no difference how salty we are if we remain silent. Our world is craving salt. And Jesus has declared us to be the salt of the earth. However, our silence and our inaction has made the world turn to other places. When they pop up their list of options to answer the questions they have, the church isn't even on the list. The earth has changed us, friends, when it should absolutely be the other way around. We have been blessed. That's not an opinion. That is a fact. We have been blessed by God with this life that we live. And now that we have established the blessing, the next question is, how functional are you? Are you functioning the way you were designed to? Because you are salt, a mineral of this earth, a mineral that does nothing until it comes in contact with something else. And when it does, it changes it for the better. The earth needs us. The earth needs our voice. The earth needs our hands. The earth needs our feet. The world needs our presence. The earth is craving it. There are those in our world out there who have made us silent. And the lost people in our world are looking elsewhere to salt that they crave, because those worldly options that they keep choosing have left them wanting in terrible ways. Jesus is very clear. You are blessed. And that blessing is an incredible responsibility. What we must do now is claim our role in this world. We are to be salt. We are to be light. And so many times the world doesn't even recognize us for what we are, because we are something positive. We are here to be helpful. We are here to contribute. And we have something to contribute to just about every question out there, so long as our fear doesn't stop us from making those responses. And my friends, one of the blessings that we are going to celebrate here today, as you see up here on this altar, is we are going to serve communion. Yes, we have been blessed. Yes, we've been given a gift. Yes, we have a contribution to make. But it wasn't like God blessed us and said, good luck. No, He has continued to walk with us, to sustain us, to empower us, to move us closer to Him. Sometimes in baby steps, sometimes in leaps and bounds, but always to grow closer to Him. And through that, we are empowered to be the salt of the earth. And friends, that's why we're going to take a moment here in just a moment to celebrate the sacrament together, because this is God empowering us to be what He designed us to be. So my final, request, I guess is what I'll call it. My final request is this. Do not, under any circumstances, ever, for any reason, no matter how bad it gets, do not allow the devil to talk you out of being the salt that God created you to be. When you do, you cheat us all. So may we embrace God's calling and respond appropriately in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, in order to embrace